talking about this for 14 years.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I am just so.
I've known you for 14 years.
We've known each other.
That's wild.
So yes. I think it was 2008.
Yes.
That you were cold calling me,
yep.
and I was ignoring you.
Yeah.
How many cold calls did you make to me?
A lot.
I think you said 8 or 9.
Yeah, I was gonna guess 10 or around there, exactly.
And of course, I was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, you still are.
So funny, but I think back to that time, like, actually, the first time we met, we had actually already met.
Yeah.
So it wasn't totally a cold call.
Totally.
It was worse than a cold call because we met in this weird context where we were in a real estate office. Yep. Neither one of us worked there. You were the kind of in-house lender or something.
I was renting a desk.
You were renting a desk at an office.
I might have called myself an in-house
kind of
lender.
going sideways, right?
Yeah.
And I was a visiting agent. They were trying to recruit me.
Yeah.
So neither one of us were really associated with this office at the time. The speaker didn't show up.
Yep.
And the broker was like, I'm going to take everybody out to lunch.
Yeah.
And so I'm at one end of the table. You're at another. Now, I'd actually heard about you from my preferred lender at the time.
Yeah.
And he's this hotshot guy. Have you ever heard of him? And I'm like, no, I haven't heard of him. He's like, oh, no, he's a big deal, right? He's a circuit guy, and he's a young gun. And I was like, so I was a little bit intrigued by that. And then we're sitting at this thing, and we're not near each other. We're like, there's probably 8 or 10 people, and we couldn't be any further away from each other, right?
Right.
But we were close enough that as I'm telling some cockamamie story about we're doing these seminars and this is what we're talking about, and here's the strategy, I think you yelled out something like, that won't work.
That won't work. That is actually exactly what I said. I said that won't work.
Yeah.
And to be fair, you said you were a big deal and all this and that, like in your mind. Well, so was I. I mean, it was like two big legends in their own mind.
Totally
like,
in our own mind.
Freaking meeting each other with. I hadn't learned humility yet, like at all, and so it was.
This is worse for me. I had learned humility and wasn't practicing it.
Oh yeah, even better.
Because we're 10 years apart.
True. But you're telling this. That is correct. That is how we quote unquote.
That was our first interaction.
And
I'm like, who is this fucking guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you doubled down. Basically, they're like, yeah, that's ridiculous. And so I don't remember what happened after that, but I wasn't like, I love this guy, which is what most people think when they meet you. You're pretty likable. You're immediately, people just are attracted, And I was like, yeah. So that may have had something to do with me not returning your 8 cold calls after that.
Rightfully so. I mean, once again, it's not a good practice to insult the person that you want to work with.
Like what?
Publicly in front of
his colleagues,
other people. And by the way, especially when I didn't know anyone. I mean, I knew one person there, the person who invited me.
Yeah.
So I was new to the town in general, the city, and it's probably not the best way to make friends either. But it turns out it is. So maybe I'm wrong.
Totally is. And you know what else I just was realizing too is that one of the things that our relationship has always thrived on is our authenticity.
Yes.
You were being authentic.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking, I want to get these people's business. You weren't thinking, I want to get that guy's business. You were like, hey, whatever he's just said, that's not true. Now, could you have been smoother about it?
I could have presented it a million different
all
ways.
Those things, but you went straight to, I'm going to be honest, as rough as that was, with what I think this is, and of course, I don't even remember what this strategy was.
I totally remember,
Christ.
But I'm not going to talk about it. Right? It doesn't matter. But I was right. But it doesn't matter.
Fair
sometimes.
enough.
Being right doesn't matter. But that was our first interaction.
That was our first interaction. Yeah. So then I don't know how much longer after that, weeks or months, not too long. But I think what happened was you saw I was running the MLS meeting.
That is correct.
I was doing some deals. I guess I was good enough where you're like, I want to invest a little bit of time and energy in this guy.
Yep.
And so then you reached out. I didn't, and then I think we even rescheduled once or twice. So I even agreed to see you and then couldn't make it.
You flaked on me.
I flaked on you.
Yeah. Which is typical.
Yeah. And we should,
not of you, but in our industry.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
But I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that whoever watches this, like that it wasn't you.
And but then one way or the other, finally you get in front of me.
Yeah.
Now it is probably like July, August, September of 2008.
Yep. Best time ever.
Which we know now. Like if you're watching this and if you don't know or for whatever, but I mean, September 2008 is when the whole stock market totally crashed.
Yeah.
And the real estate market almost immediately crashed with it.
Yep.
It was just unprecedented what happened.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that at the time.
Right.
All I knew was I had a little brokerage. I had 8 agents that worked for me, and which is, I was the biggest producer in the office, which also wasn't that big of a deal. But I had eight agents. I don't think they cumulatively did the same thing I was. In other words, just to take myself down a peg, I didn't have some big brokerage.
Right.
I had people that were licensed, that were doing the best they could.
Yeah.
Nice people. I mean, every one of them was great, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And I had just taken down this new office space.
Yep.
And here you are sitting in my office, and you're trying to get my business.
Yes.
And so you say to me, hey, you say whatever you say. Whatever. What do you think you said? Something like,
I mean, if I put myself back in time, I'm almost positive that I was like, hey, I'd like to work with you. And your immediate response was, that's great. Well, so what are you going to do for me?
No, even more specifically, I think I said, how many referrals
No,
are you
I
gonna
know.
give me?
Yeah, I was getting there.
Oh, okay.
So you said, well, what can you do for me? And I was like, well, listen, I would love to help you, grow your business, et cetera. And you were like, great. Here's what I said, what are you looking for?
Right.
And you're like, I want referrals.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not going to give you any.
Yes.
I mean, that was my answer.
It was 100% your answer. And I was like,
This guy's not very
he's
smart.
not very good at his job.
This salesperson isn't following the bouncing ball. It's find a need, fulfill a need. I told him my need.
Yeah.
He said no.
Yeah.
But what I went on to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because we always remember each other's story better.
Sure.
And that is the way life is.
That's
too.
humanist. Yeah.
Because you're like, wait, well, what did exactly
Yeah.
happen? So I basically said no. I'm not going to, because that doesn't work. Like that's what everyone says they're going to do in a relationship.
Yeah.
But rather than like give you a fish, what if I taught you how to catch way more fish?
Yeah.
Like what if I helped you through that process, and so that you can generate more business, et cetera, on your own, and we can partner in that way. And how did that make you feel?
Well, first of all,
At the time.
Yeah, no, I was like, it totally, because what you really did was you gave me more than what I wanted, even though I didn't know what I wanted, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like
what we want versus what we need,
or
realizing
how we
what
present
you
it. Like, so in my world, somebody says to me, I want a 2-acre property. And I go, okay, what is it about the 2-acre property that you want? Well, I want privacy. Okay, so they don't want a 2-acre property. They want to be able to walk around naked in their backyard or whatever, why they want privacy. They don't need 2 acres.
Right.
And so it's the same thing for me. My pipsqueak brain is like, yeah, I want referrals, which is not thinking big enough.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Then I'm limited to you, and I have to count on you. And what if our relationship doesn't? And by the way, what if you don't do anything?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you give me something much bigger than that, wait, now you're gonna help me be more of who I really need to be to make in this business? Yeah, I'm interested in that, and it made sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like you're talking about value, right? You didn't use the word value, but it's such a overused tactical buzzword a lot of times, but people don't really understand what they're saying. Is like, hey, I want to add value to you, right? I want to add value, and value usually is a little bit different than what we think it is, because we think too small, to your point.
Right.
Like we think that, okay, the value is a transaction, when really the value is always in a relationship. And a relationship is a partnership. It takes time to build, and you have to dream bigger usually to find real value. So I was basically like, I'm not going to give you leads or referrals, because if I promised every single person that I'm going to give them leads and referrals, it would never work.
You said that exactly. You're like, listen, I'm going to work with 5 to 10 specific people.
Correct.
And there's no way I could give all of them leads, which also totally made sense to me. And I appreciated the authenticity again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Because what it does is it fosters, and this is what's weird, is that, wow, I still can't believe that 16 years we've known each other now. What the hell? My brain keeps going, wow, it's been that long.
Yeah.
So what's weird about that too is that it's still the same problem. Like not just in our line of work, but in salespeople trying to create relationships. That's still the go-to kind of thing. Like, hey, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
I refer you, you refer me. And I'm not saying that shouldn't happen over time at all either. It just doesn't make sense, because it creates a revolving door, and you actually never get into a relationship with anyone.
Exactly. And those referrals might happen as a byproduct of a relationship.
Yep.
but that is not the thing.
Yeah, it's not.
And to go back to the value conversation, it's giving more away than what you receive.
Always.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, if I'm getting a $5 hot dog, but it tastes like a $30 meal. Right. It goes to,
Sounds
I think it
good.
was, is it the Go Giver that
Go-Giver,
story is in?
Yeah.
But it's that idea that value is what we're trying to, you have to be giving away far more. Like if I'm charging somebody $40,000 in commission,
right,
I got to make sure that what I'm giving them in return is at least $120,000 in value, which you go, wait, that's crazy. Well, it's not crazy actually, because I know what I can bring to the table.
Right.
But when I first got in the business, I'm like, how can I charge? This seems like a lot of money.
Right.
What, am I really worth that? And the answer was, when I was new, to be honest, no.
Right.
I wasn't, because they didn't know the nuance, right?
Yep.
Anyway, so back to the story, because this is so at the crux of everything that we do, is what you were doing. So you do the cold calls, you finally you don't give up. You don't give up on 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 rejections, 2 reschedules. You're finally in front of me, and then I ask for one thing and you don't give it to me.
Right.
Right?
Challenger sale.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But you turn it into a totally different, like you controlled the Renee Rodriguez talks about. You controlled the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Instead of you saying, I'm not going to give you leads, but I'm a really good lender, which was true. Which, by the way, should have been good enough for me. And it sounds really crazy, but what I really have come to value for you, we'll get to this more later, is you're a great lender.
Right.
The most important thing I can have is somebody who really is great at that. That should be the thing. It shouldn't have anything to do with what you're going to give to me. And ultimately, that became the value for me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But you couldn't say that.
No.
Because there's no, okay.
It's a
what
dead
lender,
end.
Yeah, what lender isn't going to
Everyone's going to say, I have great rates, we close smooth, and I'm going to make sure that it closes on time.
Yeah, and that's another thing, the rate story, right? Because if we don't know this is what I deal with commissions all the time.
Yeah.
Because the consumer goes, and in this case, I was the consumer.
Correct.
But the consumer goes to the lowest common denominator, the thing they can understand. Do you have good rates?
Right. No, I have awful rates.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah, no, I have the worst rates, best experience.
Great
Which
experience,
one do you want?
Terrible rates. Yeah. Can't have both. And so that was in our conversation.
Yeah.
But here's the other funny thing that's so important to this story. At the time, I was a real estate broker, and what?
Oh yeah. Rick owned a mortgage company. That's really important, actually.
So important,
I can't believe that we forgot that.
Yeah, because we didn't forget. I knew I was getting there. So the thing is that, here you are. I just want to really highlight for lenders that are paying attention to this, right?
Yeah.
Is you went into the deep end, like everything, like you talk about, what do you call it? Degree of difficulty. So you got a guy who you've insulted first. You cold called him 8 or 9 times.
Yeah.
It was flaked or rescheduled. Then you say, hey, I'm not going to give
you. Then we get the meeting.
You finally get the meeting.
You tell me what you want, and I say, I'm not going to give it to you.
And then, by the way, I'm a fucking lender.
Yeah, I forgot that. So yeah, literally, you owned your own mortgage company.
Yeah.
So you had the
because
brokerage.
Back then,
you could do anything.
You could do anything. It was the freaking Wild West, and why wouldn't I?
Right.
I mean, I wasn't out there soliciting mortgage business, but I'm like, hey, if somebody comes to me and they don't have a lender, it is so easy to get a loan.
Right.
Like, do you? Yep. You got money. Just tell us how much your income is.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Right.
And I mean, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so I had that. I had an originator in my office. It was on my staff.
Yep.
I would generate the business. She would make all the things happen. At the end of the day, this is so embarrassing, by the way. This is totally embarrassing. But you, without knowing what was going on, but maybe you had an idea. I don't know. Did you really think something was going on?
Yeah.
Or were you just doing what?
No, so it's not that I knew something was going to happen.
Yeah.
It just it didn't make sense to me, and it didn't seem sustainable to me, and it for multiple reasons. But the big one was like, you just can't serve 2 masters. Like that's how my brain worked and still does work. It's like, how are you going to be excellent at this and go all in on this and be excellent at this? It didn't make sense to me, and it seemed like, wouldn't you just be an expert in the thing that you're going to be an expert in? And can't you make more money if you go all in just on the one thing?
I got you.
So it was more of a mindset.
Okay.
Like I didn't know that like the industry.
About the mortgage business. Okay,
no,
you were looking at my business, my personal business model, going, that's not.
So what, you're going to make an extra like $1,800 a month? Like that's why how my brain was working.
I got you.
It was more like I didn't see the value of you spending any time running something like that. Yeah.
Which is why, so side note, we should do a whole thing on, exactly that point.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, and we see this in our industry all the time. We're like, I need to do, more things to more people. Or even go back to, ultimately I went to a brokerage where they were like, you're going to be an owner and you're going to be a manager. And then it didn't happen. I was super upset because I was told whatever. But then ultimately I was better off being a producer, a big time, just focus on being a producer. I was offered that role 3 times later. Yeah. But by then I'm like, are you crazy? I've got the best life ever. I'm crushing it. I have all the, anyway. So that's a whole nother story. But so you didn't see the industry going away the way it did because it was.
No one would have predicted that.
Nobody. Okay. So you were like, no, Rick's business model, he's going to realize at some point this doesn't work.
I'm going to be more valuable than his whole quote unquote mortgage company.
Yeah, okay.
That was my mindset.
Well, and quote unquote is totally accurate because it was not anymore. You're giving it way too much credit to call it a mortgage company.
Well, it was though. I mean, it's like, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Anyone could have opened up a mortgage company.
Exactly.
Back then. I had one like 4 years into being in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. So it meant nothing. And the totally different licensing at the time and stuff. Yep. We just have an agent's license and you're good to go. Okay, so let's go back to the story, which is, so you're in front of a guy who you've told him no, and then by the way, I'm a fucking lender.
I know. That's embarrassing for me to hear. I'm like, wow, embarrassing.
Why is that embarrassing? I think that's badass.
I'll tell you why. It's not embarrassing because I did it. I think it's embarrassing because I want to find that fire again. So I'm embarrassed now. Here I'm sitting here listening to that, and I'm like, man,
because you were hungrier?
I had no fear.
Yeah, gotcha.
And now I still have little fear, but not like that.
Well, but maybe it's more hunger. You're right. I mean,
I needed to make it happen.
You're crazy successful now. Let's be honest.
No, I know, but I want to tap into that. So I need to figure out how to find that again. I need to remind myself of that again and again and again, rather than becoming a little soft and not following up as much and not pursuing the things.
When was the last time you made 8 cold calls to somebody that didn't?
Oh, I won't use the name just in case the person watching this right now, but I've been doing a campaign of 10 people I don't work with for 10 weeks. And there is a person who literally I have called 6 times, made a personal video, dropped off a book at their office, handwritten note, DM text, hey, I see that you made this cool video about like how to rent out an ADU with traveling nurses. Literally, I am really interested actually in that. I have gotten 0 response. And so, I'm kind of fired up actually right now.
Now it's a challenge.
So I still am doing it, but it's more of the mindset that I need to be like, okay, like every time, be obsessed with that, pursuing the things that you want. Like don't give up no matter what. And it doesn't mean waste a bunch of time. Those are 2 different things.
Sure, right.
But just the mindset of pursuing that. So you're right. Literally, I called you. It's the most unlikely thing to happen. You own your own mortgage company. You're already super successful. I insult you. I say I'm not going to give you referrals, but I knew I wanted to work with you. Yeah. And I didn't know that the industry was going to change. That was lucky. Right. Where we had like the meltdown.
Can I tell them what you said?
Yeah.
So you said, this is brilliant. Now, did you know going in there that I had the mortgage thing, or did you find that out right then?
Right then.
Okay, so you find out this that must have been like, I spent all this time and now this guy, but I had no idea.
I mean, I had nothing to lose once I found out that you owned it. Totally. I was like, okay.
Yeah, so you're flying by the seat of your pants. Yeah. But you do have my attention, because clearly when you said teach you to fish, I don't know that you actually used those words, but that was exactly the message I got. We've told the story before. And I'm like, but okay, whatever. But I have my own mortgage company. Yeah. You didn't skip a beat. You said that may not always be the case.
Correct.
And I'm willing to stay and hang in and be with you in this process, so that if that happens and you're not, I want to be your guy.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, that's something. Like so now I'm like, okay, I like this guy.
Yep.
Right?
Batter on deck.
I like this guy, and I didn't want to meet with you. So you went from, I was purely, and this is what I think happens with agents, by the way. Tell me if you think this is wrong, because I'm an agent, but I can only see within my... Agents are mostly high I. They want people to like them. And if you call me 8 times, Anybody could call me 8 times, I'm going to meet with them. Because I'll start feeling bad as a human being, like, okay, I got to meet with this guy, even if I don't want to meet with them. You know what I mean? Like, your perseverance tapped into my high I. I don't want to be a bad guy. But I didn't want to meet with you. I don't even need it. Why would I meet with a lender, right? But you, in that meeting, in a few minutes, this isn't a long meeting. This is, we're maybe 10 minutes in.
I was going to say, it was a 15-minute meeting.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
I'm like, I like this guy. Too bad I don't need a lender.
Right. Maybe in another life.
Yeah. And you said, well, listen, thank you. And that was it. Like, we didn't spend a bunch of time. You were genuinely appreciative. And you said, I'm going to start the process of helping you do more business, as I told you I would, independent of you giving me any business. I get it. You're a lender. Why would you send me any business, right? Yeah. It was fully on the come, as I think that's a craps reference, right?
I knew. By the way, I knew what he meant. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Come bet.
So then that happens, and you leave and whatever. Now, I have since had multiple people nobody did it as good as that, but I certainly had people that got in front of me, promised something that required follow-up, and literally never followed up at all.
Right.
And so this is kind of the second most important part of this story, which is within a day or a week, I mean, very shortly after that, you dropped off
a book.
Yeah, Jeffrey Gittimer.
Little red book of selling. Yeah. I can remember this like it was yesterday. Yeah.
And you're like, hey, this is a book I'm really enjoying. Tell me if I'm getting this wrong, but this is the way I remember.
You got it. Yeah.
This is a book I'm really enjoying, and I told you that I'm gonna help you with your business. By the way, you said a second ago you were successful. I was successful because of the market.
Me too.
I was successful. Well, I'm just saying though, we both were. I get it. Yes. And there's a whole other story about the rise and fall, right? But I was successful. I was making good money. I bought $1 million house. I blah blah. And I look good on the outside for sure, but really it was the market and a little bit of charisma that was carrying me.
Right.
In other words, I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to create success. I got swept up in success. Yep. But as soon as things got difficult, which they did almost immediately after this conversation, I was in big trouble, right? And so anyway, you drop off this little, what was it called?
The little red book of selling.
Little red book of selling, Jeffrey Gittimer. And you said, I'm reading this book, I love it. And I think you highlighted some stuff. You go, I like this part, so forth. And he's coming to the city and he's speaking. Would you like to go? I go, yeah, shit, that sounds great. And I'll bring your whole team. And I've scheduled a signing or a private meeting with him afterwards. Yes. I mean, I was stoked, right? And we did that. And it was great. And he was awesome. And you were awesome. And now we've gone from, at the thing, I don't like this guy at the end of the table who's speaking up and making me look bad, to, okay, I'm going to meet with you, to, wow, you know what? I didn't even think of asking somebody for value the way he's presented it, to, wow, this guy's really doing it.
Yeah.
And then what happened was, in my mind, I'm like, I cannot wait for an opportunity to give this guy a loan, even though I was still a lender.
Right.
And I didn't know that it was only going to be a few months later that I wasn't.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so to me, that's the story. And I just love telling that story. I love telling that story to lenders. Obviously I get a lot of incoming calls for people that are trying to get a hold of me. Not as many as you'd think, by the way. I mean, I am a pretty decent producer. I should be getting 10 calls a day.
Right.
And I don't. Right. Yeah. And I frequently get a phone solicitor person, like, I'm from so-and-so's office, which, by the way, if you're calling me,
that's a big mistake, man.
You're not going to get a phone solicitor like, hey, so-and-so wants to schedule, he's going to be in your area, schedule 15 minutes. No, you're not. Not with me, you're not.
Yep.
Anyway, so I get those calls all the time. And if I do get somebody on the phone, especially if they've tried me 3 or 4 times, I want to honor that. I want to honor that they've tried. And then I tell them something that they may not like at first, but hopefully they see the value as I tell our story.
Right.
And I go, listen, here's my guy and here's why. And this is what he did. And then this is what he did to follow up. And this is why he is my guy. We're best friends now. Yeah. Like, you're never, ever going to get my business. I'm sorry to tell you that, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I have other lenders that I love. I have other lenders that are freaking awesome, and they're great people, and I spend time with them. We have a mutual friend who's a lender. He's great.
Yep.
He knows he's not going to get business. I have lunch with him all the time.
Right.
I don't even know I mean, and obviously our relationship is very authentic because he keeps calling me. We've done some deals together by happenstance. We knew the same people, but he knows he's not going to get a referral from me until you go out of business, and then he's probably my number 2 guy. I can't believe that he's doing all this waiting for that to happen, right? You're not going anywhere.
Right.
But I tell them our story because I want them to know, listen, your 3 cold calls, I'm going to give you value. Here's your value. Do this. You know what I mean? Like, it was me teaching them to fish. Like, you're doing the right things. I'm not the right guy, but you're on the right track, but you have to add value. Don't tell me you've got great rates.
Right.
Don't tell me you're going to give me referrals.
Yep.
Because I won't believe you.
Right.
Right?
Now, what I love about that is, one, thank you for being you, for real, to those people, because that's not normal. Like, there's plenty of people that I pursue over time, et cetera. Want to, first of all, even see if I want to be in a relationship with them, but that doesn't start until you have interaction. Right?
Yeah, right.
So no one has ever offered me anything of value in our industry when they already know they're not going to, quote unquote, work with me or take the appointment. So that's a huge gift. And I hope that those people that do call you actually pay attention to it and what you're saying, because that could be the game changer for them.
Right.
Like, literally, you're giving them a gift and they probably don't realize it most of the time because they're like, I didn't get the appointment, or they're not even listening to like what you're saying.
Yeah.
But if you're watching this right now, like, literally know what Rick just said is huge. Like, and think about how you can do that for other people. Like, people that, I have a lot of people that call me all the time too. And the reality is most people want something from me.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. And there's plenty of people that I totally ignore because I just don't have the bandwidth or time, and I have no reference point as to like, why would I be talking to the person, right? But when I do pick up the random phone call, or there's a gentleman named Jay, for example, who's in Vegas and like calls me all the time, and I always do it because I'm busy and I'm like, I have nothing to talk about this person with. Like, I don't know them, and I choose not to. I could give that person a gift, and I could take that call, and I could say, hey, here's what I would do. This is why I'm not picking up.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't want to get to know you or anything, but I don't have anything to refer you over. Like, I don't have any.
It kind of is that you don't have anything to talk.
Well, I don't know that. See, that's the hard part about like interaction.
Well, but it's his job to create that.
Correct. Yeah. So, but I need to start giving those gifts. But whenever I do pick up the random one, I'm honest with them too. And I'm like, hey, I'm not looking to make a move. I get recruited all the time. And I'm like, literally, it's impossible. Like, just don't. It's a waste of your time. But I so appreciate your diligence, your follow-up. And I give them positive feedback and constructive feedback, which is what honesty is on, hey, you know what you could do? Stop sending me these boilerplate texts that say, checking in on you. Your production looks really good last quarter. And like, I know that you sent that to 1,500 other people. Like, it's annoying. Like, don't do that. If you want to be in a relationship, try this. So I think it's important to always give more than you receive, for sure. And I love that you respect people enough for trying. That you're totally going to.
So freaking hard,
it's
man.
time consuming. It's energy consuming. So, it's like, don't give up, but also know your target. And listen if someone's going to give you feedback, because you just gave that person a huge gift. Anyone that talks to you and you tell them our story or even a portion of it, or this is what I would do, should listen, because it's going to make their job so much easier, like across the board.
And I will tell them, listen, what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to love at first. It's just not going to happen.
So you already set the stage.
So I set the stage so that, and then I tell them the shortest version of the value that you created. And then I tell them how long we've been working together and why you could never, we actually do refer, I mean, obviously I send you all my business. You send me, ultimately, at some point, you started sending me your business sometimes as well, which I appreciate. But you could never send me, you could never ever send me another lead, and it wouldn't matter to me. I'm going to send it because of what you and your team do for my clients. It's the same thing that I go to estate attorneys and probate people, and I'm like, listen, I use your book. I'm like, I'm not going to give you any business. we have an estate attorney really well. I told her, I'm like, I'm not going to, I just don't have it. It just doesn't come into my purview. I'm here to be on your team.
Period.
I'm here to make you look great.
Period.
Exactly. And I get all their business because I've done that over years. They don't even think about it. Their attorney, they're like, we have to send to 3 people. I'm like, you don't actually, but if that makes you feel better. Yeah. It's not a thing, but I get it. But now, of course, they don't do that anymore.
This is so random, but gosh, man, I think it would be a great script response to that would always be, absolutely. So who are your 2 top competitors?
Yeah.
I would love to meet them too. So I know if I'm going to refer, I refer to the best 3.
Yeah.
So who are they?
Yeah.
Like just why do people say stuff like that?
Well, I think it's, first of all, rumors. These are actual attorneys, though.
It's
there
not
is no
true.
Rule that says yeah, exactly. I mean, it's CYA. I get it. Whatever.
Whatever.
Anyway, so, bro, here we are. It's 16 years later.
Yeah.
I don't know how many millions of dollars that we've done together. A lot. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And we have had so much fun together.
Yeah.
Personally, we're best friends. We, all the things, all from you. Really not giving up on call number 1, call number 2, call number 3, call number 4, call number 5, call number 6, call number 7, call number 8.
Yep.
I think about this, and I want whoever's listening, if you're in a spot where your part of your job is to make cold calls, I want you to think about this. That what you did for me with that persistence, and I get that there was something in it for you, obviously, and that was your driving. But what you did for me by not giving up is that there is nobody on the planet that has done more for my business. You talk about teaching me how to fish. Dude, I don't know, 75% maybe of what I have learned to become and all the things I do and all the coaching, and I've been in your coaching company, I mean, all the things, it's all from that, you not giving up on me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm not crying on the camera. I'm not going to do it.
But there's nobody that's done more for me than you have.
I appreciate that.
And I get that, that there's a reciprocation, but it's like, my big point is, who am I potentially letting down by giving up on a relationship that could be this?
Yeah.
Like, dude, you could have just 2 or 3 calls. I mean, you could have just called me once and not, that's what most people do.
Right.
Call once, didn't see it, and then what? I can't even imagine, this is why, I cannot imagine my life had I not had Jeremy Forcier in it. I cannot imagine where I would be. I would not be as successful as I am. I would not be as successful as I am without you.
Oh man, I really appreciate that. That's unbelievable. And I feel like you're giving me too much credit, but I know that you're being honest and true because that's who you are. And the reality is that it's been just as rich for me. Relationships are a weird thing. You have to pursue them. I've said that 50 times probably in this recording. You have to pursue the things that you want, period. You just have to. And the magic that can happen from relationships over time is greater than you could ever conceive, ever. Our friendship, we have a million stories, literally, a gazillion. We've spoken together at giant conferences, on stage, living the dream, our dream. You're like, I want to be on stage. Yeah. I'm like, well, let's be on stage. Yeah. Let's get in front of 2,000 people and do it. Let's make it happen. Boom, done. Yeah. You just have to pursue it and pursue it with people that are aligned with you. The reality is you want to grow. You've always wanted to grow. You are the best version of yourself that you've ever been, and that's what you always want to pursue, and those are the people I want to be around. So selfishly for me, it's pretty easy to be in a relationship with you. Not all the time, but and it shouldn't be because
we've had our growth. It's there was a lot of stuff that
exactly. But ultimately, you make it really easy for me to grow, right? And you make it really easy for me to become a better version of myself. You give me unbelievable advice. You coach me on things when I ask for help. And that is a gift that is priceless. And so over time in relationships, I appreciate you saying that I've had the biggest impact on your business or whatever that may be, but you do all the work. And I don't ever want you or anyone who watches this to forget that is that someone else is never going to do shit for you.
Right.
They can help you get there,
Yeah.
and they can encourage you. And we all need a lot of help.
Sure.
I have a tremendous amount of coaches and mentors in my life.
Right, of course.
We need a ton of help, but to make sure that you take some credit too, that like you did it, like you did the work. You didn't. It wasn't like I was like, come with me, I'm Jesus, and you're gonna be fine, right? Like it was no, you literally like did the work. So I appreciate you as well. I can't believe that we're recording this finally after all these years. We're like,
well, it's funny, we didn't talk about this. We just came in here to the studio.
We don't even know, by the way, if the shot even works. Like
That's true.
I actually like the whole like every 3 minutes, I'm like, I wonder if I should go see like if I need to move it back if Rick's hand's in the shot. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. And
because we didn't have a plan. I mean, I think it's important. This was not a conversation. We didn't say, hey, let's talk about this today. We sat down
and just started talking.
Yeah.
So
here's what's going to happen for our next one is we're going to talk about your growth spike and the rise and fall and all the things, because I think that's
the Phoenix story.
The Phoenix story. I love it.
Well, thanks, bro. It's really fun. We'll see if this like shot works, and if it doesn't, we're going to redo this one. And then we'll do another one. Love you too.